keyboards and whatever surrounded me at the time to develop something,
Yes.
not necessarily tracks or albums, but get a feel of the album, And I think it probably wasn't until when I was about 16 or 17 before I started realizing that, that it's probably what I'm actually going to be doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I must agree with you, because I'm a huge fan of Jean-Michel Jarre as well, and he did a concert in London with the laser things, and I want to know, Chris, did you, when you were that young, go and copy him at home with a pair of oven gloves and pretend to be Laser Man?
When my grandmother used to look after me as a kid, I used to put on the Jean-Michel Jarre videotape from London, just the one you were talking about, and I would do the whole move set. I'd come down the stairs, have smoke coming through the door because they haven't been on all day, and we just and it was just this kind of just copying everything that he did with the laser harp movements and the keyboards, and thinking that I am Jean-Michel Jarre.
He's such an innovative musician, and it's great to hear that that he's inspired you, because the music that you write yourself, it has a lot of similarities, but at the same time it's uniquely yours. Have you always been attracted to electronica rather than other genres of music?
I've been extremely lucky in terms of being able to hear everything, as far as I'm concerned. I grew up with a family that has a variety of inspirations. My dad's kind of on the electronic side, whereas my mum's actually on the blues and the rock and that kind of stuff. So's my dad, but but still, it was very varied, and I think I was kind of convinced that I was the only kid in school who listened to 60s music and 70s music. Just before I went to school, there used to be a fantastic radio station called Great North Radio, and it was they just do the typical 60s and 70s music, and I grew up with that, And then there's other guys and other people that influenced me that you'd normally be surprised with, like the likes of Mike Oldfield, Eric Clapton, Muddy Waters, even, stuff like that you wouldn't normally associate with electronic music. There's like hints and little things here and there that suggest that obviously they've touched my life.
Yes.
In various other ways. So, yeah.
And I'd like to say, I remember when I was young, I because I'm very old now, I actually was a big fan when I was very small of the Bay City Rollers, and I hope to God that the music that I write now has absolutely no influence from them whatsoever.
There's nothing wrong
that
with
would be pretty scary.
Yeah, okay. Well, Bay City Rollers, I mean, they had the scarves. I mean, you could say that.
I don't know, I seem to remember they had a lot of checked tartan trousers, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember. I just remember.
Trousers.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, good old.
And I mean, you are also a musician that, as you said, I mean, you've been using the internet to perform online, but you do go out gigging as well. So I want to know what sort of shows have you done? Not just before Second Life, but if you're still out doing jams now and touring at all.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's actually part of the thing I want to actually announce a little later on in the show beforehand. I did a number of gigs. My first gig actually wasn't until about 2007, my real live gig, and that was in London, and it was snapped up by a guy called Mark Jenkins, and he had the idea to do an event called Music for the Third Millennium, which was just essentially bring in 21st century musicians from around the world, actually, everybody coming in, and it was quite a unique event, and I was very honoured and privileged to take that opportunity to be there. Incidentally enough, actually, that was the moment where I actually discovered I was going to be in a band as well, and I ended up being in this band called Intelligentsia. We done a lot of gigging in intelligentsia. We went to London mainly. That's where they're based. We had ideas to go, more northern of the country and stuff like that. So I've done a few gigs, mainly in London, and I'm hoping to extend now, and do other places. I'm constantly looking for various other places. So yeah.
Do you think there's a difference between? Particularly because both of you are electronica musicians, both you and I are electronica musicians. Do you think there's a difference, certainly in the UK, when you travel, between the response to electronica? Do you think it's more popular in a city like London than it would be up north, or did you find it, reasonably the response is the same? It's the crowd that was pulled in that had that interest.
It's usually the crowd. I mean, it's probably considered as a cult, perhaps even a swear word if you happen to be a fan of electronic music. It's usually like a small box, like "Do not touch," do not approach electronic music, which is fine. It's each to their own. But yeah, I think it's I think it can. I mean, Europe's definitely more buzzing when it comes to electronic music, especially Amsterdam, Germany. The Kraftwerk and Tangerine Dream, just to name a couple. I think it does definitely vary. I think Europe's definitely got it all plugged in when it comes to electronic music, whereas the rest of the world's more orientated by using keyboards in the mainstream pop sense. You see the likes of Lady Gaga, for instance, and other names I can't
other celebrity musicians who we can't remember right now, but we'll remember them all when the show's finished.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
But I have noticed that there's also, there's a lot of good electronica musician coming out of particularly Romania and Croatia and Russia. These places that it seems to be very, very popular, and I've certainly found, certainly from working in London at some of the live music venues, if you say the word electronica, everybody sort of looks at you and goes, "Oh," and it's a bit worrying, And it seems to be relegated. If you talk about electronica, it should be either music that's played in an elevator or in a nightclub.
Well, I've always had a bit of a saying when people say, "Oh, it's elevator music." They must be actually taking a long time actually realizing that that's actually elevator music. You obviously tuned into the elevator itself and listening to it rather than. I don't know whether or not it's a compliment.
Captive audience, really.
Captive audience, exactly. Yeah.
Actually, maybe that's a good marketing ploy. We should actually go to all the elevator and lift companies and say, "Here, look, we'll give you our album for free. Once you've got everybody in there, play this album."
Yeah, you're listening to it now. You might as well buy the CD. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, you could. You could just press a few buttons in a lift, and you're delivered an MP3. Download it from the lift straight to your iPod or your smartphone or whatever it is.
You've sorted it. No, that's just a fantastic idea. What can I say? Yeah.
I can imagine hundreds of people are going to run off, and all these companies be going, I'm getting some very odd requests from musicians. Please play my music.
In this day and age, nothing's new to do anything like that. It's not. It wouldn't be known as bizarre. You could get away with murder, not literally. Don't anybody in the audience, please don't murder anybody. It's. You could get away with that, people. I was reading an article the other day that sounds relatively simple, as to have music streaming from a badge that you wear on your shirt or something like that. So it's technology is obviously getting so small and digitized that you can do anything and do it anywhere, including an elevator. So
I think that's such a good idea. I have actually written that down to take away with me after this show. But I don't know about you, but I have talked before about social media, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the music websites that musicians use. Do you think you know, when we're talking about marketing, how do you find the marketing of your music in particular? Do you find it hard for yourself getting out there and saying, listen, this is what I do. For goodness sake, listen to my music. You know, somebody do something with it. Or are you a little more relaxed about the direction that it goes in?
It's
This
one of
is
those
desperate like me. Buy my music.
I think it's sometimes a bit of a lottery. I mean, you've obviously got so many social networking sites out there now that you just can't possibly count. Obviously, yes, Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, Reverb Nation being probably among the biggest and best out there right now. And these are phases that will go through any generation, and it's obviously finding the next best thing, and you always try and go for that because you're an artist and you want to be seen as popular and active and just doing anything that you possibly can to try and be an artist. And it's sometimes a bit of a danger. Actually, I've actually been very critical and quite outspoken when it comes to social networking sites. If to get this general feeling that it's the be-all and end-all of getting promotion in terms of music, and not just music. Obviously, there are other things such as YouTube, which is obviously a video networking site. You know, so it doesn't really matter what profession you're doing right now in terms of the internet. You could go anywhere, and you know you could spam to death and do everything that I've just mentioned. And whether or not if it gets you anywhere, then you know, congratulations, well done. You know, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think some musicians hang on the social, in particular on Twitter, as their only form of marketing. They don't appear to go anywhere else. Yes,
and yeah, fair enough. That's fine. But I'm not sure. I think it's a bit of a lottery sometimes. There's now extra ways now. You can obviously expand your music. Obviously, the music distribution itself has opened up slightly.
Oh, hugely.
I mean, now you can obviously get your albums on iTunes and Napster and you know other.
And you even get 15 pence back from iTunes once they've sold your tune for £1.
It's not fantastic. I know.
Or was it 10 pence?
I know it's tuppence, but and that's actually it's really it's just a problem sometimes, I think, and it's just knowing what you actually want to do with yourself, what you want to do with your projects. I mean, if you want to spam everybody to death and promote everywhere, then that's fine. I just still think there's always just going to be a danger that, you know, that you just go everywhere. And it's not just a danger for yourself, it's a danger for anybody who may actually be interested in you as a fan. So, you know, I've always been very cautious when it comes to things like Facebook.
There does appear to be a big struggle at the moment, and I am going to say that hideous word, the broad music industry, between what is more popular, you know, people who go out and play live, or people who don't go out and play live necessarily, but they just produce music and use the internet as a form of releasing music, and rely on DJs to be the person that would go out and play their music and do the performance for them. How do you feel about DJs playing your music rather than you?
I'll be fine with if DJs playing with my music. I think it would be obviously a nice, flattering thing. I think, you know, it's something I've not completely ignored or anything like that. I admire DJs. I wish I had their talent and their knack to do such a thing. I know you are such a DJ as well, and it's just a wonderful art form.
Well, not in any brilliant form, I must admit.
Oh well, each to their own. I think you're fantastic, but you know, I think I think I would have no problem with DJs. In fact, I've had a wonderful time with several DJs who've who